mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amoga Vairochana Mahamudra Mani Padma Jivala Pravartaya
Please stand and join me in offering the 3 refuges. Our tradition comes from the mountain monasteries of South Korea. And so as we offer these 3 refuges in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, we will first do so in Sino-Korean and then in English. So please just throw your voice in as best you can. I go for refuge to the Buddha
I go for refuge to the Buddha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
and realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
I go for refuge to the Dharma
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings
I will penetrate the teachings
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Now, please remain standing for a few more minutes while I read a dedication to our ancestors.
Which I think it's right there.
You almost got off the hook. Okay. On this 23rd day of February 2025, we acknowledge that this land where our temple buildings stand has been the home of Native peoples, the Potawatomi, the Odawa, the Ojibwe, the Council of the Three Fire Tribes, and also of Black Americans. We know that this neighborhood used to be a historically Black neighborhood during times of racial segregation and oppression. For our own awakening and for the awakening of all life, may the benevolent energies of our meditation, chanting, and full presence here at this service this morning extend to all beings on this planet and throughout time and space. May there be a deepening of our interbeing. May peace prevail and wars cease. Now let's make 3 vows together. And then please sit again in meditation. So this will be just a brief period of meditation, about 5 minutes or so. So please settle yourself in to a meditation posture. Sort of the pose of royal ease, sitting erect but not stiff. Breathing from the abdominal area, counting the breath if you wish, or whatever your meditation practice may be. Please join me in some stretching as an end to our meditation. So good morning, dear Dharma friends.
Good morning,
Mom.
Welcome in from the 10 directions. It's so nice to see a little bit of sun today, considerably warmer than last week, eh? Hopefully that means spring is on its way. Yeah. So in Buddhism, we say everyday life is the way of Buddha. The way of the Buddha is everyday life. And so whenever I prepare for these Dharma talks, I try to look at what's going on in everyday life And are there any themes that are arising? And so the theme that arose this week is aspiration. Now, when you hear that word, if you're in a medical field, you may think of you suck something in and you can't breathe. So that's not such a great connotation. Also, you might think of aspiration as being something sort of lofty, powerful, that you're going after, that has this sense of grasping to it. When we think about aspiration in the Buddhist context, it has more to do with inspiration and helping us stay on the path. So that's what I want us to talk about today. So usually during February, I go into a little bit of a slump, a little bit of a malaise, and that's happened again this year. And then when sort of faced with everyday life, it seems to take maybe more energy than I wanted to take. And so I've been a little grouchy. And then I go to a place of kind of grouchiness and resentment. And as the story continues, I ask myself, what the heck am I doing here? Why don't I just go lie on a beach somewhere? So why do I want to be here? And when that comes up, mostly it has to do, it's a key to me. I have to look at, well, what are my motivations for being here? We have a lot of these messages in Buddhism that we all have Buddha nature. Seeking or attaining enlightenment is the defeat of meditation practice. Just be present. It's almost like this self-affirmation, and you think, well, I don't have to do anything. But in reality, it's a heck of a lot of work, as a lot of you know. So, and the work involves, we have to look at our habitual patterns, and we have to constantly be tweaking and prodding and examining ourselves and this kind of thing. And that takes quite a bit of effort. And so for that kind of effort, it is helpful to have some inspiration. So that's how this topic first arose, just sort of noting what happens in February, feeling a need for some sort of inspiration. And then we also, every morning at breakfast, read from this book called Instructions to the Cook. It's written by Zen Master Dogen, one of our famous Zen ancestors. And so here's the paragraph, one of the paragraphs we were reading this week. Though a person might be fortunate enough to be appointed to the office of Tenzo, if they lack inspiration to walk the way, they will return empty-handed from the mountain of goodness and the oceans of virtue. So first of all, this Tenzo, it means the head cook for the monastery, somebody in a leadership position. So I can sort of relate to that because I have some leadership responsibilities. And in February, when I lack aspiration for the way, I may just return empty-handed from that mountain of goodness and the ocean of virtue. So then it goes on. Yet, though a person may not have awakened the spirit of a bodhisattva within themselves, if they encounter someone who has done so, it will be possible for them to practice the way of the life of Buddha. So I just look around the community, there are those who are, I consider, awakened, at least more awakened than I am. So that gives me hope. I can still get back on this path if I look at my role models. Or even if they do not encounter an awakened teacher, if they have a deep aspiration to live this incomparable way of life, surely they will become familiar with the practice of such a way. And so that's saying that we can generate this aspiration all by ourselves in some way. However, if both these conditions are lacking, how could anyone possibly function within the way of the life of a Buddha? So that was one interesting occurrence that spoke to me on this topic of aspiration. And then the other was, we have been reading this book. It's called Eternity to Eternity, and it was written by a very famous nun in the Korean tradition. And she was sort of all in, both feet with her practice, almost to too much of an extreme. But she had this great aspiration that she discovered at age 12. And at age 12, in a conversation with a Zen master who happened to be also her biological father, she decided that her goal, her aspiration in life was to seek eternal happiness. And that sustained her throughout her entire life of practice. And she's now 90 years old, having done a lot of practice since age 12. I thought about other aspirations that I've heard articulated. Robert Buswell comes to mind. Also, when he was pretty young, he came up with the goal, the aspiration to live life in a way that creates the least harm possible. So that's pretty inspiring as well. Then I started asking myself, well, what's sort of my aspiration? And this process of questioning was kind of interesting, because one that immediately came to mind was, well, the reason I'm not on that beach, the reason I'm really here is I want to be able to hold this container of practice, this temple, at least for the next few years. So that as we go through a leadership transition, it's going to be here for everyone. But beyond that, then I said, well, why? And what does that look like? And you have to keep unfolding, tweaking these deeper kinds of aspirations. So particularly when I said, well, how am I going to do that? I sort of came up with, well, it needs to come from a place of wisdom that's sort of beyond my thinking mind. It needs to come from a place of stability. It needs hopefully to come from a place of what we call suchness, just as being here in this moment, intimate, immediate, spontaneous, and obvious. So those are all some sorts of aspirations as well. In a Buddhist context, there is this term. It is called pranidhana. And this is a very specific take on aspiration. So, if I can find a good definition here. So I tried to get a fix on what this term means, and it's not only in Buddhism, but Hinduism and a lot of other traditions, this pranidhana. But sort of the common element is it is related to bodhicitta. So bodhicitta means a deep wish for personal and universal liberation. So liberation implies that we're letting go of the small self and letting go of the grasping and coming to a place of connecting with something, this broader liberation that involves all of us. And it also refers specifically to the 4 great vows. We say these at the end of every service, so let me recite them now and sort of listen to them with the idea of these are great aspirations. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Blind passions, one root, I vow to terminate. Dharma gates, one mind, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to realize. So those vows articulated by bodhisattvas. One of the bodhisattvas we're familiar with on my left, your right, is the bodhisattva of great compassion. So what does this mean? All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Robert Aiken says we have to translate this into some sort of vow or aspiration for ourselves. So I would encourage you to think about, if you were to rewrite this vow for yourself, what might that look like? And just to give maybe one example in my current life situation, if I think about all beings, maybe referring to the community of practitioners who lives here. It's even narrower than the broader Sangha. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Maybe it comes out something like, when we get into conflicts and arguments, may we get on with this business of loving each other and liberating each other. Something like that. And I don't know what it is for each of you, but you can think about your own lives and work with the vows, work with these 4 great bodhisattva vows. I ran across a podcast by Domio Burke. She's a contemporary Zen teacher. She has a lot of interesting things to say. And this podcast was titled, The Lifelong Path of Growth and Transformation. And it refers to pradidhana, how we work with these great aspirations to keep us on this lifelong path of growth and transformation. So she said, when you think about these aspirations, what can you dare to want? So some examples she offered are to respond to the world, free from self-limiting behavior patterns, to live with greater intimacy, to use skillful speech and actions, to manifest authentic compassion. And then back to Robert Aiken, he reminds us that when we take on a vow or aspiration, we're promising that we're going to do it ourselves. It's not just an abstract idea. So in Domio's Dharma talk, she offered a long list, a fairly extensive list of things that we can do to help ourselves to stay on the path and to cultivate these aspirations. So I'm going to read some of them to you and then hope to engage you in a discussion on this topic of working with aspirations. So she said, it's helpful to us to recall and honor moments that we experience something greater. Recall teachers who've inspired us. Allow the experience of longing to arise. Cultivate impermanence. This creates a sense of, perhaps a sense of urgency. Our lives are limited. Do some self-reflection, perhaps a journaling practice. Talk to teachers about your aspirations. And here's one I particularly like tell stories to each other. Talk about ways that we manifest wisdom and confess our weaknesses. It feels like we have a chance to do that, and we do it often here at Sunday services. Tell each other stories. It's very inspiring. Cultivate faith in our capacity. Work with what is our edge, our boundary, our opportunity for growth, our limit to understanding. So here's where that effort comes in. So where are you noticing some resistance in your daily interactions and how you go about your life? And those are areas that you probably should be exploring. That's working with your edge. The things that we want to work on should reflect our deepest aspiration. And then her last idea is form vows and have them handy, even if we cannot achieve them in this lifetime, because they're reminders of our deepest aspirations. So the example that I gave was, well, maybe I'll try to translate this bodhisattva vow into an everyday vow. You might come up with examples that are a little simpler than that, such as I vow to do 10 minutes of practice a day, something along those lines. So now my question of you is, do you have any aspirations that you're working on? And even if you can't achieve them, and how does that affect your life and how you go about living? So I'm going to pass the microphone. If there's any other aspect of what I said that you want to comment on, you can go there too.
One aspiration for me this week is to recognize and celebrate when I am angry, and to say I am angry with honesty and conviction to communicate.
An aspiration that I've been trying very hard this semester is to model how to talk to people who have views other than your own. I teach in a university context and with undergrads, and so sometimes they don't know how to respond to views that don't match their own. And so bringing in loving kindness and curiosity and wonder is something that I see these young people really needing, and I need it too. So it's been a good, but it's always an aspiration, fully realized.
This is more of a lifelong, I'm not sure I can really achieve it in my lifetime kind of aspiration, but I figured out that I was non-binary at about 12 years old, and I've had a lot of struggles with that. So it's my aspiration in life, honestly, to just make it easier for any other non-binary person after me, especially young non-binary people who may not really know how to stand up for themselves or how to carve out their place in the world yet.
Good morning. As part of another group that I'm in, we listened to a meditation that helped us to come up with some aspirations for the year. And mine have really been helping me to stay centered on what's important to me. And so the first one is to be free in love. So really noticing when I'm feeling fear or resistance or resentment, and find ways to get to the root of those and release it. And the second one is to be gracious in community. So similarly, to be open and yielding, and notice when I'm being what I would call crunchy. And the third one is to be graceful in nature, and to be noticing, be learning from plants and animals and the earth and the universe, like how to move more gracefully. Thank you.
Good morning. Well, my life, when you say setting boundaries, my aspiration is to listen to the language of my body. What I could do in my 30s and 40s, I cannot do in my 70s. So I listen to the language of the body, and it brings great reward, peace, and joy. My grandkids, which is small, they come over, and that's just too much activity for me. I have to run and hide. And I often say all the time, they're great joy when they come, but they're greater joy when they leave.
Good morning. I can so relate to the young children being such a joy and so exhausting simultaneously. And thank you for mentioning the aspiration of meditating 10 minutes a day. That continues to be my aspiration. I try to set my timer for 15 to 20 minutes a day. But I find, and my goal is to do it first thing in the morning. And my goal is to wake up before everybody else in my house to do this. But if I don't get good sleep the night before, it's very difficult to do that. And then it becomes easier for me to just snooze the alarm, go back to sleep. But then if I do that for several days in a row, suddenly I've gone 2 weeks without doing it. And that doesn't feel good. So I need to support the aspiration with other aspirations, including putting myself to bed on time.
So on that note, I have 3 kind of interconnected ones. So recently I tried to follow deeply the aspiration of, I want to live fully in each moment to kind of treasure it. And because I'm beyond the whole thing was always like, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do with my life? And I'm trying to figure out, maybe it's just live. But recently, something I noticed was that I'm getting a lot of insomnia recently. It's like trying to fall asleep. It's like, what do I have to do the next day? Ooh, sometimes it's not even thoughts. So in a way, my whole practice, I'm thinking, is to learn to embrace stuff like insomnia, because again, I'm a person that's like, I gotta get up early in the morning. I gotta get up 3 hours before I gotta go to school, so that I can, just have a little bit of downtime before I have to fling myself into the day. And I noticed there's a little bit of grasping there. So I think an aspiration could be work with it. Work with the whole grasping towards insomnia and stuff. And the third one's a bit unusual because over the past year, I've gotten a little bit of beginner's mind in a way, where it's like, I'm going to meditate for an hour today. I'm going to meditate for an hour, 30 minutes today. It's like, I have time, I'm going to do this. But when you get something like lots of schoolwork or insomnia or something like that, or even just any other illness or things you have to do, you don't exactly have time to be, I'm going to do this for an hour, 2 hours today and not stop. And because I've been so rested all day, I'm not going to sleep the entire night. But as I was saying, I feel like those can kind of go interplay with each other, because you can focus more of the attention on, I'm going to meditate for this amount of time a day, or do this type of practice this amount of time a day, and spread it out and say, okay, school will be my meditation, work will be my meditation, moving will be my meditation. So I've been trying to work with that, so thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm pushing myself to speak today. This is my first time speaking here. I've come like maybe 5 or 6 times, and speaking because one of my aspirations is to become involved in this community. I've never really been a part of any organized religion before, but I think it's an important thing to have in life, and having some sort of spiritual practice. So I'm pushing myself to come here, be involved. Sorry, I've lost my voice. And I think that's coming within my broader aspiration of finding balance with, like recharging and relaxing in my free time, and doing things that, like, how do I say, like expand me as a person, whether that's like keeping in shape, staying involved in a spiritual practice, writing, whatever that is. And that balance is one that's been more difficult for me recently, since I feel like I've had less free time and less structure, and that makes things more difficult. So I've been trying to impose a little more structure on self-enriching things versus just relaxing. So thanks for letting me speak.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is also my first time speaking here, but I've been here a number of times. So for me, I've been thinking about, I sort of had, I think, this lifelong aspiration around just being there for others and helping other people. It's sort of been my role in my family and with my friends, which turned into my career and every moment of every day. But recently, I think it's been trying to find balance with that, and also having an aspiration for taking care of myself, and putting more focus in my own self-worth and my confidence in doing things for me, and figuring out how to prioritize that, so that I don't get maybe too lost in just one aspiration, and having more of that balance and confidence in myself to be able to put myself first when I need to. So that's all.
So I was thinking about my aspirations for the year, and part of that is like cultivating and maintaining good relationships. And I've been thinking about some of my older friends that I hadn't seen in a while, but I still talk to them all the time. And this past week, I called them and just said, hey, I'd really like you guys to come out. Because I grew up not that far from here, but, far enough away. And just said, I know you guys got a lot going on. I'd really like you guys to all come out and take this time. And it's important to me, and I want you guys to prioritize it too. And they all said, yeah, that sounds wonderful. But in thinking about a lot of what everyone else has said, whether that's taking your 10 minutes or your hour or working with your students and things like that, they're all things that take time and take structure, and remembering to take those times for your aspirations, I think, is something that I've heard a lot today. So thank you.
One aspiration that's been in my field for the last few years is to be a good man, and trying to figure out what that means today.
Thank you for that. I've been focused on what matters, trying to figure out in way what really matters, that makes a difference. So that's been my focus. Thank you.
So thank you so much for your sharing and your inspiration. And please continue to think about this topic, at least today or something.
For the rest of the day.
For the rest of the day, at least, something like that. Anyways. So now let's take time. We will say the 4 great vows together, and then have some announcements, and followed by time for tea. Okay, so please join me. All beings, one body.
All beings, one body.
I vow to liberate.
I vow to liberate.
Blind passions, one root.
Blind passions, one root.
I vow to terminate.
I vow to terminate.
Dharma gates, one mind.
Dharma gates, one mind.
I vow to penetrate.
I vow to penetrate.
The great way of Buddha.
The great way of Buddha.
I vow to realize.
I vow to realize.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jopwa. Nice to see you all here. A few announcements. So we often get asked, do you have a class that talks about Buddhism as a beginner? And by popular demand, the answer is now yes. So we will have a class beginning Tuesday evenings, April 8th, for 1 hour, 7 to 8 p.m. here at the temple. And I believe it's for 4 Tuesdays, and there is now a sign-up sheet in the lobby if you are interested. This class will be taught by Chichong Clifford Brown, one of our residential clergy members, who also has several decades of experience in monastic training and life in a Buddhist community. So it should be a really great class. We also offer meditation classes on a regular basis. This course includes stretching exercises, working with the breath, meditation postures, mindfulness practice, etc. We offer it in two formats, a 5-week Thursday evening format from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And the next version of that class begins March 20th. And we also offer the same class in a condensed overnight format from a Friday evening at 7 through a Saturday at noon. And the next version of that is March 21st and 22nd. Other classes are yoga classes, Tuesdays from 6:30 to 8 with David Black. Those you can just drop in on if you're interested, and there's a drop-in fee. And we have a one-day meditation retreat coming up on March 8th, which is a Saturday from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m., including a very delicious vegetarian lunch. The temple currently has vacancies in our residential visitors program. So this is a program for people who would like to spend some amount of time living in Buddhist community and practicing in that setting. Residents follow the daily temple schedule and participate in our various programs. So if you're interested in the visitors program, speak to Ma'um. If you have children in your life, we have a family program, and the children and families join us on the second Sunday of the month at this very service. So second Sunday will be in a couple of weeks, so you can bring your kids then. And then this temple is entirely supported by volunteers and financial contributions from our community. So a good time to get involved if you would like to do some hands-on work and get to care for the temple, really make it your home and get to know more of the people in this community is to come on Saturdays from 3 to 5, and there's a work practice period for those 2 hours. Oftentimes working outside if the weather is good, or indoor practice, work practice. Any other announcements?
Recovery Dharma will meet today at noon in the historic Buddha Hall, the big yellow building next door. Just go up the steps, through the door, take your shoes off, keep going straight, you'll run right into us.
I have two announcements. One is that we are having a choir at the temple, and it's once a month, the first Sunday of the month. And our choir director is right here with us. So Josh, would you just like to say a word about what we're doing?
Yep, so rehearsal will be next Sunday starting at 8:45 in the library next door. No prior singing experience necessary. If you play any musical instruments that you want to bring as well, feel free.
Thank you, Josh. And the second is that the person who is looking after our plants is leaving for California. And we are looking for a person or a couple of people who would be interested. We really have a lot of beautiful plants, and we'd like to keep them growing like that. So please see me after the service, or there's a sign up in the foyer. Thank you.
Is there together action today?
No together action.
Any other announcements? Okay, so if you would like to make a financial contribution, there is a fishbowl as you exit. You can leave cash or check. I think we also have the ability to take payment by a card on a square machine if you prefer that. And all of the programs that have been mentioned today have sign-up sheets in the foyer, and you're welcome to ask any questions that you have of those of us wearing the gray clothing. So thank you.
So let's please stand. So we will end with 3 formal bows to the altar. And then if I can ask your assistance in picking up the room, preparing for the next event. Mats and cushions touching the carpet remain. Those on the outside rows, on this side of the room, they go on the stage. And on that side of the room, they go in the back corner with the shelves. So nice. Oh, good. Look at that. The way it just stands out there. It's really cool. Thank you. I need to.